Hi, I'm Sandy, and today I am trying what is arguably the best watercolor paper out there. The Arches 100% cotton paper, 300 GSM, medium grain, cold press, in what is, for me, the cutest format. So, is it true what they say? Does good watercolor paper make you a better watercolor artist, even if you're just a beginner? Does it make that much of a difference, or is it just a massive waste of money? Let's find out. Okay, so first thing I should say is I have been delaying this video for a very long time because this paper right here intimidates me like crazy. I am clearly over the fancy watercolors intimidate me phase, but 100% cotton expensive paper, yeah, it intimidates me like crazy, to the point where I'm thinking over and over again before actually deciding to use it, because any mistake is just so freaking expensive. But like I've said, I keep hearing that great watercolor paper actually makes you paint better, or at least that the outcome is just overall better. So I'm thinking that as a beginner watercolor artist, we need all the help we can get, right? And if this is the best watercolor paper out there, I have to try it. Now, I got this 20 sheet block for 25 euros on Amazon, and it's a glue block, as in it is glued on all four sides. So this is 7.9 inches by 7.9 inches, by the way, or 20 centimeters by 20 centimeters. You know, the closest thing I have to this beauty right here is Bauhong, and I can tell you right now, this looks so much better. It does look rather fancy. So Arches, or Arches, but it's French, so Arches is actually a part of... Oh, now I got scared. I thought the paper was black. Okay, see, clearly the first time I'm using it. So Arches is French, and it's owned by the same company as Canson. In fact, you know, Canson owns Arches. So I guess they just like to be all over the range, from really cheap cellulose paper to what is supposed to be the best paper. In fact, you know, once a sales assistant told me this was the Rolls-Royce of watercolor paper. So yeah, like I said, it is glued. The only place where it isn't glued is over here. The rest of it has glue all over the place. You know, essentially when you hear about bad watercolor paper buckling with the water and that you have to tape it on to your table or some kind of board, well, it turns out the best possible watercolor paper buckles too. Maybe not as much, but still enough for them to sell it on glued blocks to keep it from warping. And like I said, the best paper I have used and loved is Bauhong, both in its Academy and Master's Choice versions. They're quite different, but for me, they're both very good. So if you'd like me to make a comparison video between Arches and Bauhong, just let me know and I'll get on it, okay? Now, like I've said, you know, this format is the cutest for me and I love it. It is nice and square, not too big, because big formats are scary, you know, all that white paper to fill. Let's look at this surface, shall we? Not as toothy as Master's Choice, which I think is a plus. Okay, so here's what we'll do. We'll do a few tests, wet on wet, some lifting, some blending, some glazing, you know, the usual stuff. And then we will paint something really simple just to see how it goes. So, from all the glue blocks I have owned, so Academy, Bauhong, etc., this one is just so much easier to remove. Also, you know, I always like to see the front and the back, and this is quite different because I'll tell you, you know, as a beginner watercolor artist, I use both sides. Expensive watercolor paper, I'm not, you know, selling it, I am just practicing and improving, so yeah, I'll use both sides of it, and now I know that this one is actually grainier than this one. So I'll just have to keep that in mind. So I'm not going to tape this onto any surface, I'm just going to leave it as is. And the first test is wet on wet. Now you want it to be shiny, not puddly. And I can tell you that this absorbs water really well. Yeah, no puddles whatsoever. I'm using my Schmincke Horadam superset. I'm addicted to it now. I really love it. Okay, nice controlled blooms, I like that. I like watching the blooms, but it's not really much fun when it just whoosh, you know, when it goes all over the place. I can definitely see, which is also a plus for me, I can definitely see the places where I've put more paint and where I put less paint. Sometimes for some papers you really can't see the difference, but this so far, the word I can use is controlled. Everything I make, everything I do, you know, every step I take it just does what I want it to do. I've read somewhere that Arches paper smells very nasty when wet. Cat urine, I think, was what they said. And after my masking fluid debacle, I'm kind of scared to test that. Shall I? Here goes. Well, I guess you'd have to wet it a little bit more than this. It's okay, guys. It's not very bad. Not very bad at all. It does smell differently than the dried part, but not, not as worrying as I thought it would be. I've been talking to you for what, some seconds? Let's see if I add some blooms, what happens. If I left it on too late, or if it's still blooming. Oh, look at that. So the paint isn't activated. It's blooming with water, essentially. What's going on with this paint? Come on. Oh gosh. This is just so reactive. It's like everything I do has an effect. So now I'm going to go ahead and do some wet on wet blending. Still loving the way this absorbs the water without pooling. And now what we're going to do is we're going to pick two colors that are essentially going to meet halfway. So, ooh, this is cute. I love it when it does this. It's just so nice. So a pink, and now let's get a blue, and then go up, 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 and then we meet the pink. So what we want to see here is the two colors blending seamlessly, so you won't see like a line, like a hard line anywhere, okay? You'll just see the colors blending, turning into a nice purple, which is what we have right here, but everything is very, very subtle. And let's see how this goes. You can definitely see the purple. Just don't want the harsh line, okay? We want things to blend seamlessly, to go down. Yeah, we can definitely see it's pulling down. This is exactly what we want. Okay guys, how about we try some wet on dry? This is another pink. So my brush is wet, my paper is dry, and I'm just going to meet both these colors halfway, and we want to see just how soft these lines are going to be. Pretty much the same thing, except now we don't have the water to diffuse those harsh lines that we don't want to get, but might get and usually get with, regular papers. So let's see how this goes once this dries, but I am liking it already. So far we see these are going down with the water. These are blending real nicely. We can't exactly see where one starts and the other one ends, which is exactly what we want. Let's try some wet lifting and see how it goes. Although you do need to keep in mind that the color you use does make a difference, because some color stains more than others. And of course the quality of your paint. And like I said, I am using my Schmincke Horadam Super Set for this one. And I am going to go with a notoriously stainy paint, which is the screen right here. And we start to lift. This is a pretty stainy color, okay guys? But considering it, I like it. This is very, very good. Okay, so next I'm going to need this little blotch to dry, or I'll make it dry with my heat gun, because I want to do some dry lifting. Okay guys, so this one is nice and dry. Yeah, it's perfect. And now we go back with our wet brush and we try to lift some paint. You can definitely... Okay, so what I do with dry lifting is I always like, yeah, look at that. So wet lifting, okay, dry lifting, okay too. I just hope this means that when I mix my colors, you know, my layers, it doesn't reactivate the paint and blend. That would suck. Hopefully that's not the case, because now we're going to do some glazing. And like I said, that's when you're painting one layer, waiting for it to dry before adding another, and so on and so forth. So let's make blotch of paint. Kind of like a leaf, but it doesn't really have to be a leaf. Now I can tell you right now that my heat gun is kind of lifting these corners, but I will say that compared to the Bauhong, I can tell you already how cool it is that these colors remain so vibrant, not chalky at all. Okay, so let's add our second layer. I'm going for a dark blue here, and we're just going, and already you can see the layers. And the paint is still really wet. So that's a really good sign, actually. So let's try one even darker. Maybe this one. Let's see if we can see the whole 3 layers. And yeah, we can. I can already see, and I haven't even dried my paint. Okay guys, and as you can see, first layer here, second layer here, third layer here, all very present. There was no blending, everything is going perfectly. I have nothing bad to say about this paper so far. So I have picked a simple night sky for us today. Kind of like a galaxy kind of painting, but with a little landscape at the bottom, something real simple, real magical. Okay, you've probably seen a couple of these paintings or like in postcards. I personally love them, and I will spend so much time looking at those skies. It is mesmerizing for me. And luckily, it is also so much simpler to make than it looks. Let me show you. Okay guys, so I just got a plastic lid, real old one by the way, and I'm just going to draw a little circle. There we go. Big circle in my square page, and I will also add a little tiny circle for our moon. So big circle for the painting, small circle for the moon. Now I'm just going to add water to my big circle, keeping my smaller circle intact. And you can add some masking fluid if you like, but I'm keeping it simple, so there's no need for that. Make sure it's all shiny. If any part isn't shiny, it means the water didn't touch it, or that we took so long to do this that it actually dried and we need to re-wet it. And look at that, guys. The paper is already moving. So yeah, good quality paper warps too. It is moving like crazy. Now you can do this with a smaller brush if you want, if you feel more confident about doing it that way. For me, yeah, this is already drying up. So clearly I wasn't fast enough. But you can always re-wet it, but this is just the first layer. So I am good. I don't have a problem with that. Nothing too crazy. Like, you know, when it's nighttime, but the sundown, the sunset was not that long ago. So there's still all kinds of color mixes. Yeah, that's what we're going for. Also, I can tell you right now, we want to make the upper sky darker than the one below. Okay, so we're back for our second layer. Now we'll just be adding layers and layers of paint until I'm happy with the effect I've created. I'm also blotting it with paper towel. You've watched me do it to create all sorts of values and textures, but as you can see, we're still keeping it totally simple. So let's just re-wet this all over again. Go ahead and do a little bit, not too much. You don't want to remove everything we just put on. Just don't want it to be, you know, too even. Anything like that, right? You want it to have interesting texture. Okay, so that's the top of our sky, and now we need some darker. Oh, actually it's going to be lighter, but it needs to be darker than this, that's for sure. We're just going to add some really simple gray shades to our moon. You know, when the moon is all nice and big, it isn't flat or uniform. So that's what I'm looking for here. Some small shades. Let's see how this dries. I may need a second layer for this one. Okay, and I think I got the exact effect I was looking for here. Some really soft, you know, crater shading for my moon. The next step, we add some stars, lots of them actually, and you can do this two ways really. You can either pick a nice white or silver marker and dot away, or you can get some white gouache or some white watercolor and a hard bristled brush and do what we're about to do. Okay, so we want to cover our moon. We don't want it to be hit by the springs in any way. What a difference stars make. You do need to have your painting nice and dry before you do this, because if you don't, the white will just get absorbed, okay? So now we're going to just draw the background, you know, the trees, the tree line down here. Now I just realized it would look really cool, since this is round, if we did like a line of trees all around our circle, like we were lying down on the forest looking up. But since I made, you know, the top darker than the bottom and I added the moon, we'll just go ahead and do what I planned. But if you have a chance, do try and do that. I think you will love the result, and I think it will look really cool. So first we decide where our line is, and this isn't 100% black. This is one of my favorite colors. It is called Perylene Green actually. So this is a really dark green that looks almost black, and it's actually in the black section of the palette. Now I did a straightish line. You could, just follow along the circle edge. And these trees are really simple to make. I'm going to be making different kinds because I think it just looks better that way. You can also use like a marker or some Chinese or Indian ink, or just regular black watercolors, which is what I am using. Because I like that it won't be uniform, that we will have different values and all that. So yeah, I am mixing my Perylene green with my black. I'm just doing all sorts of stuff. This is looking so cool, guys. I am loving it. I hope you are too. Before I got this paper, I was done. I was going to go with Bao Hong, Master's Choice or Academy. I love them both. They are both very different, and I was just going to go with one or the other. And now I see a difference. I am going to have a lot of fun with this paper, is all I can tell you. Okay, guys, we are done with our video with our Arches paper. That did really, really well. I do believe this is the best control I've had over my paint like ever, and at the same time I was able to combine subtlety, which really is the thing I struggled the most with my watercolor, to be subtle about my strokes and about my blending and about the colors I use, about my values also. And the color vibrancy at the same time is perfect. Overall, I'm very happy with this paper, and I think it's better than Bao Hong, but I guess the only way to really know for sure would be to test them side by side and find out. So I may just do that. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in watching. And that's it, guys. Our video is done. I had a blast. I hope you did too, and I will see you really, really soon. Bye bye.